take it while it's hot. Yeah, if we're going to do that, I'm going to be smart enough to do one on one layer and one on the next, so I can make some decisions. Right now I was going to have a big mess that was all on the same layer. Now, this could be done with using my selection tool and just doing a fill, but maybe I'll get something that amounts to a happy accident by hand filling all of it. This is more like having a marker in your hands and doing that. And for my little tendrils of, what do you call them, legs, tendrils, we'll get a little finer than that with my favorite drawing tool, clean as a whistle, and it comes up with its own little color, which I want to change. There we go. It's a nice little flexi nib drawing tool. Let's get in the habit of rotating. I hit R and B. Rotate and back to brush. And I especially when I'm in digital mode, I do fills and such like this much better vertical. So it's nice to have that R. It's not something Photoshop always had. I think the people that always liked Painter, I think early on Painter had that, and you hear these advocates, and also Painter had just more tools that made you feel like you had traditional media going. And Photoshop, what with all the attention being paid to developing brushes for it, it's got Painter. It's caught up to my mind. I just like Photoshop, but for the budget-minded types, which I am one, but I happen to be locked in on Photoshop. It's now called Clip Studio Paint. It used to be called Manga Studio, and it's a remarkable program for what some people pay, monthly for Photoshop. And of course, that's the only way you can get Photoshop is monthly. For a one-time cost, you can get Clip Studio Paint and get more tools devoted to making a comic book artist's life simple. And that's what probably everybody ought to use that does comic book art. But I don't. I like Photoshop. What can I say? It's a character flaw. Now, if I say that's enough fill on that, I can do the same thing I'm doing with line art and say lock transparency. And now the only thing I can touch is that centipede's color, which I may come back and do all kinds of raking in it and all that sort of stuff. Let's have a quick look at this. Add to his texture, or may just fill him completely over again with a different tone. I think she wants to be light. That's what I think. So I am going to make a new layer behind the centipede. I'm going to go back to paint. See if I can get something more interesting. Smoke, that might be good. Oops, I'm still in R. See what this does for us. This is going to be interesting. Yeah, let's try a little bit of this, because I know this builds up. Yeah, we'll do a pickup out of this fog. And I don't know if this is a Kyle brush or not. This may be, there's always these things that say the 50 brushes you need for Photoshop, and I follow the links and, you know, grab a few free brushes here and there. So I never know exactly if I think it must be one of those free brushes, because I think everything I got from Kyle brushes isn't named Kyle. Heads off. I've renamed a couple of them. My main workhorse painting brush, I named This Is It, just so I understand that's the one I like so much. And behind her, let's get real dark and then work our way back behind her with some light. And do I want to lighten her with, well, I want this light to kind of be behind her. So I'm going to make the brush smaller and work it just for a little part of the image. All of the the house style here for these particular illustrations are going to be vignetted, so all of this all around the edges, whether complete or not, or no border, that is the look of all illustration in it. They are done pretty much all like that. So there's that. Let's see. Let's act like that is almost like a light source working underneath, to where we're going to light the centipede. I ought to pay attention to the lighting that's on the thing with hatching, I guess. Might make my life easier. Let's do that. We'll pay attention to that. Now you'll see what I mean. It's like I can make this brush big to where I can't really get a detail one in it, but because I have locked transparency, see, it's only going to find its way to that area, to the area I've already colored. And we want him to be flat and on his belly and round on his top, which I've reinforced with line. And like I say, this is a colored line drawing. And I'm still using that smoke. I need to switch to This Is It here. Start to get some stuff going. Yeah, see, I was about to... I'm using pressure to lighten it up versus picking a different tone. And here's a great time to go ahead and show what a great thing. See, I'm going to go to my line art, and I'm going to get a little hard brush that clean as a whistle. I'm trying to rename it. And that clean as a whistle should be prefaced by Kyle, I believe, as well. And I'm going to change to a really light color. And go along and make what had been a dark note about the contours of the centipede into almost white notes about that contour. And see, like right here, do I want it that contrasty? I'll move it down, and the only thing it can touch is the line art, so I can edit that all day long. I want it a little lighter. Yeah, do I want those light or dark? We'll make the top ones light. Okie dokie. Okay. Coffee break. Got to fill it up again for the. Got half a cup, and if I don't fill it up again, it won't be drinkable. Look at that bald head, man. Really thinning out there. Transition. There we go. So she's going to get her later, so I can get to her without messing with anything else. So I've been on that layer for the line art a little bit, and that was just mainly to, let's see, where do I want her? Well, she's got to be on top of that. There we go. So I said light. Let's make her light, and I've got my hard brush selected. So I make it smaller. Guess I did. It's all right. I can clean it up. Sometimes I forget to use my layers, which is dumb. It's the most beautiful aspect of Photoshop. Almost everything works in layers anymore. Almost anything with even a timeline works with layers. I've got Blender for Dummies. Someday I will teach myself Blender. I used to know Maya pretty well, and I've kind of let all that pass me by because I've got no real use for it. I should focus on this sort of thing. This is it. Okay, let's make. That's obviously frothy. I want it to get to. There was a really good instructor. I wish I could think of his name off the top of my head. We decided to go on a sailing cruise, and just took off, just did that. But he had a really good class that just churned out very good artists at Otis in Culver City, and he had what he called the range you should work in. In other words, over here, if I was really wanting to get disciplined about it, I might only work in, say, like half at a time or so of the range, not go black to white. But I tried that, and I got a lot out of it exploring it that way. But it's just not like how I work, and so I kind of quit on it. It's smart though to have your range kind of figured out on your color. What was that guy's name? He had a kind of a cool, almost nickname-like name. Oh, I can't see that because it's behind the spray, which is part of the, where is the spray? Oh, I can't see it because it's, well, I ought to be able to see it. Why am I not seeing? See if I go all the way to white, if I can see it. Why is that not showing up? It's on top. Oh, because I've been erasing and forgot. Now it'll show up. I think I'll move back to my drawing. Need to come up with some sort of hotkey transmission, or I need to have a flyaway menu for this kind of stuff, to where it's sitting right in front of you and just pick the brush you want. This is that pretty much, but you know, you want to just zone out and have that be the only thing in front of your face. Okay, we'll add one more layer of, this will be the water. Should it be on top or the bottom? Let's put it on top. That way I can bite into everything else. That guy's name will come to me in the middle of this at some point, and I'll just blurt it out. Okay. He was a big favorite of the students. They really appreciated what he was doing for them. Like I say, Otis churned out some very talented people. It's kind of as an instructor, I was there. I was just you know, an extra class where I tried to teach people a little what I knew. I always went in underprepared, so I kind of cheated them that way. But I'd never done a lesson plan before, and I'd come in, kind of wing it, show Photoshop tips and tricks, and never gave a decent demo of any sort. But I love those kids. They are, if you don't, my ordinary impulse to avoid anyone that young, but something like that forces you to rub elbows with them. You realize, God, all I want is for them to do well. You kind of like can't help but fall in love with them, because you're looking at yourself. You're looking at yourself in a mirror from ages ago. In my case, ages ago. Now this we can adjust how sloppy I'm being, because it is on its own layer. Some of this. Get in here real close. Let's use another tool Photoshop's got so I can see what the heck I'm doing wrong. Erase, erase, erase. Registration doesn't matter too much right now at this point. It'll start to matter now that I've got such precision. 20 ought to be fine. Here we go. Turn it back to normal. Hotkey for that would be nice too. But I don't see any hotkeys. I think they usually try to give you hotkeys on the pull down menu if there are such things. It might be something like, let's see what happens when I hit the arrow keys. No. Now see, all of that black line art is as cool as it may be as a capture for my my tone. It's going to be probably cooler when it's frothy with a white outline. See how that works? Isn't that cool? Make it bigger for this bit of tiresomeness. Okay, drink coffee before it gets cold. And here is exactly what I'm talking about. Down here, it's just a sloppy line. And I might just go ahead and start thinking about editing the line for that with a that color hold. The style of this, because I am a sloppy guy, and establish that as the kind of look of what I've sketched up and done here. I'll clean it up a little bit as I go, but basically it's going to be sloppy sketches. I found you think about yourself in the hierarchy of artists. I have something where I can do rough art and invent figures, and I've got miscellaneous talents. What I don't have is any ability whatsoever at anything that really takes it just gives me, I fidget too much. I can't imagine sitting still for the amount of work it takes to bring the typical digital painting you see that is just extraordinarily well. I understand what I could do that would get me there quicker. I understand I ought to be painting with fills and stuff like that instead of even messing with the idea of a line drawing. See, these I should figure out the light source and just fill those, and then once I've got the big shapes like that, then paint instead of doing something like this. But like I say, I'm not going to reinvent the wheel. This is the way I have been working on, especially this project, so I'll continue on. But someday I'm going to turn into a painter, and I've only been working on it for about 25 years. But before that, I was a guy who just sketched, wanted to be a comic book artist, so I got kind of lopsided on that. And even though of course, whatever tool you've got in your hands, if I were to make myself do something and do it only with broad brushes, and that's what happens when you get a guy like me in an oil painting class. He's got these big brushes he didn't know what kind to buy in the first place anyway. He's got these big blunt tools in his hands, and he does his first painting and he's just amazed because his reaction to it is, wow, that looks painterly. And it's because the tool in his hand has forced that. See, I'm blending those away, they're disappearing. I don't want to do that really. Just do some undos. Well, really, I've got to think about my evening here. I started this. I wanted to stream a little bit, do the all-important save, and I've done a little something and streamed it, which I think I'm enjoying doing this. Okay, transition. I'm putting a higher priority on my coffee drinking than entertaining, and we will see you soon. Stopping streaming. 5, 4,